And I guess we're live, right?
Yes, yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our, I don't know which one.
22nd.
22nd. You're
Yes,
keeping count of
I'm
them.
keeping count.
22nd product meetup, Prismic meetup. That's how we call it. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, I always mix up. And today, we have a special guest. Today, well, we have Nuha already and a
A
special
special
guest.
host, then.
Special host, special guest. Everything special is about this one. But let's get started here and see. We have quite a few people here. Hello, everyone. So, I guess let's get something rolling. So I guess the topic today, I'm sure in most of the world, or half of the world,
Half of the word.
is
Okay.
about the heat, right?
The
Everyone
heat?
is feeling
Okay.
like too much heat now. Like it's summer in our half of the earth.
Yes.
But I would like to be more inclusive and have the people that are living in the other half talk about their weather. So do we have any people in here in the chat that are from the other half of the earth where it's not summer exactly now?
I'm trying to think if we have people from the team in that other half, but I don't think so. Would you say Mexico is on that other half? No. It's on the upper half.
This is the time where I will show my ignorance
In geography?
Yeah, in the probably. Yeah, I guess so. That's
It
I mean,
is?
I guess in the middle maybe, no?
Middle. Yeah, okay, so we have no one in the other
We need
half.
like someone
should.
from Australia or someone
Yeah.
from the other side. Let's see if anyone is, or you can talk about, complain about the temperature you have, or tell us about how you're enjoying weather. The fact that is in Paris, it's pretty hot nowadays, right?
Yeah.
What is
Well, we
it?
both come from hot countries, so we're good with it, I guess. I come
Yeah.
from Morocco. And you come from
Originally I come from Syria, so hot weather is like when it's, what is it, 40 plus, but Morocco is even
It can go over
more.
50
Yeah,
in my
no,
city.
like we're
so
40, 42, that's fine,
yeah.
but above that is too hard.
But we have AC everywhere, which is not the case in France. So I guess it's a different way of living the 50 degrees.
Yeah, when was it? In February or something? I went to Dubai,
Uh-huh.
and you go out of like a shop or a mall, and wow, you feel there is an oven that was
Yeah, the
open.
heat
You see
wave.
that?
Yeah.
The heat wave like
Yeah.
woo, gets into your face.
Yeah. That
So-
feels like home to me, so
That
it's
feels
fine.
like this is, okay. Oh, it's home.
Not that much. Cool.
All right. So we have
Andre?
Porto. Okay, well that's Andre from Porto is 26 degrees, so he's enjoying that. I
Yeah.
guess
It has the beach. It's that, yeah.
yeah,
that's
and the
true.
beach and all that.
Cool.
So, and maybe this is the time also that we introduce our
Yes.
guest.
Yes.
I will let you do the honors.
Let's see first if the studio can bring in Vitaly to the screen so that we can see him. They're looking into
Please
the
let me know if you
different
can see me.
scenes. We should be able to see you now.
Yes, I think it worked.
Cool. Hi, Vitaly.
Hello.
It's great to have
Wonderful
you
to see you all here from not so hot and not too cold Berlin here.
Cool. Yeah, it's true.
I've never been in Berlin, but I heard a lot of good stories about Berlin.
I think we can arrange something for both of you to come and enjoy. We can show you around and a couple of hidden places. I don't know if you're into clubbing or I don't know if you're into anything else. Croissants, I heard, are pretty good here as well.
Really?
I heard, yeah. So there are a couple of places we know. So if you're looking for any tips, I even have, because pre-COVID I've been traveling non-stop, so I have this huge encyclopedia of places I've been to on Foursquare. So if anybody has ever been interested, you can just type Vitaly F, I think
Okay.
on Foursquare, and you will find a lot of places, including places for croissants in Berlin.
Okay, I'm looking for it now.
So
What's your
you-
favorite place in Europe that you traveled to? City, let's say.
That's good. I think the most favorite one is Abisko. Have you ever been in Abisko in Sweden?
No.
Abisko is the most incredible place ever because it has exactly, as far as I remember, 84 inhabitants, not 1,000, 84
Oh.
people in there. So it's a very small place. It has a nice little cozy hotel, and it's very known for kind of an observatory which is there to observe northern lights. So this is an incredible little place. A very good internet connection, by the way. So if you ever plan a little vacation for
the
working and
ideal
enjoying
remote-
northern lights,
It's the idea.
you will not find a better place.
Okay.
It's quite remote, although there might be some tourists. I mean, probably of 84 people, of 84 inhabitants, it might be that 50 are tourists. So,
Okay, that's a
It
good
depends.
balance.
indeed,
Cool.
indeed.
So I think, Sadek, you had a question for Vitaly. No?
I have many questions. Like the moment we were talking about this, and you told me, yeah, Vitaly is coming and from Smashing Magazine. Like, what's the Smashing Magazine? Everyone knows Smashing Magazine, and probably we don't know all the stories that happen behind, but we know about it, and it's a very good source. So basically, how relevant this is to us. We build tools for building websites, right? This is what we do, right? And
you do that well, by the way, if I may say so.
You really believe it, or is it like you're
I
you're
really
helping?
believe it.
Oh,
Yes. Yes, I do.
this means a lot. This means a lot. Thank you very much for telling this. So, and you do a lot of news about that, and I enjoy articles that you publish about all these kind of design trends, and how you optimize, how do you do websites. So I felt like this makes a lot of sense for us. So already, thank you, Noha, for organizing this.
Thank you,
Vitaly, for coming.
Yeah, of course, it's my pleasure.
But before we come to the hardcore optimization and all the other things about content, I was wondering what were you doing before? Like, what was Vitaly before Smashing Magazine?
Oh, that's a very good question, because actually I don't even know where to start, because it all started back in 1998. If you ever remember, not Shockwave, it was Macromedia. No, Macromedia Shockwave came around that time, I think. VRML for kind of 3D models on the web. This was the time when I got extremely excited about one single thing. I could go to Yahoo and I could find anything. This was the moment I will never forget. I mean, because like some people that I meet these days, there is no notion of pre-internet time. It just didn't happen. And I remember vividly that moment when it actually changed everything for me. And so for a very long time, I was deeply, I cannot describe it. I was so in love with the web. And I would literally just pick up random keywords and just go to websites, because I was so fascinated by websites. Like, everybody could just go and use FTP and then put a website on some very strange third-party host with a lot of strange advertising and rainbow GIFs and all of that. It was so exciting. And so my first site back in 1998 was a football club digest, because I was so much into football. Okay. Over 4 years of its existence, it gained remarkable 46 visitors, which I'm still very impressed by.
Like, it's not far from the population of that city in Sweden.
It is. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's a sign, indeed. So that was very exciting.
So you had a counter? You had a counter? Visitor counter?
I did.
You remember these?
I don't know how many of those 44 users are me. That I will probably never find out. I hope not too many. But this was incredibly exciting to me. So just being able to kind of push things. And so for a very long time, this was kind of my start. And then I went into Flash. Anybody misses Flash? Please write in the chat if you do. I hope you do not. Right?
You do miss Flash sometimes.
Florian, you are in the wrong chat here. You do not belong here. Yeah. So Flash was a story on my own, which I really deeply fell in love with. And so, my parents brought me to Germany in early 2000s, just to shorten the answer a little bit. And I was just studying computer science, and I really thought that I'm going to become a hardcore developer. Like, this was the thing that I was just kind of looking for. And then I realized that I'm really a bad developer. So that was a moment, kind of the second moment after that Google moment in 1998, I guess.
Yahoo moment, yes.
Maybe. Yahoo moment, yeah. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can do a little bit more design, or kind of be on the UX side of things. And so this is how it kind of maneuvered. And then I went into the world of CSS, which I deeply love. And then, because I just liked writing from very early on, I wrote my first article, which was published in a magazine like when I was 15. And I just wrote little books for children, because I thought that I'm a child, so I should know how to write books for children. Right? So I did. And I kind of kept going. And so by the end of it, it was a magazine which we then founded back in 2006, which was almost 16 years ago now.
16 years ago. Cool. Wow. Cool. I think this is a great introduction to our discussion today. So, well, I don't need to do a whole intro of Vitaly now. Everyone knows he's the creator of, one of the creators, or creator, let's say creator.
Yeah, well, co-founder, but now I'm,
of Smashing Magazine, but he's also working with a lot of large companies and institutions on like super big and content heavy websites. So today we're going to also talk a bit about the European Parliament, who's I think you're currently working with, or it was before?
Yes. So for the last I mean, actually, not many people know, but actually, approximately 50% of my time is now these days is spent on Smashing Magazine, but the other 50% is spent in the work with actual clients, because I was missing this for a long time. I was writing about things for a long time, and I really wanted to kind of get my hands dirty, if you know what I mean. And so, yes, for the last 5 to 6, 7 years, indeed, European Parliament, I'm very, very happy and privileged to be working on that project, really big scale. Might seem like a very simple thing, just one simple site, but then it kind of includes literally 130 plus different websites in one. And so that's a project which is quite challenging indeed.
Awesome, cool. And so one of the topics I would like, so the different topics I would like to address today are, first, how are there things that you learned while like working on these like long form article websites, on like how to make the reading experience enjoyable and intuitive for people. For those where you're looking also to generate engagement from people, so like that they tweet, that they subscribe to a newsletter. I think Smashing does that a lot. Are there some tips and learnings you got from that? And also something that would be relevant for all the websites or many of the websites I guess you're working on, how to organize content to make sure that it's not overwhelming for people when they arrive on the site, but they still can get to the content that they're looking for, or the kind of area of the site that is of interest for them. So
let me maybe add 10 questions to that, because there are not sufficient questions. Let me add 10 questions to that. Do you remember the questions?
No, I'm going to get to them. I'm just announcing the different topics we'll talk about today.
That's what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah. So I think from my end, the most important thing is relationship. So when I think about content, I don't really think about keyword stuffing or anything like that. Or kind of, frankly, I'm probably not doing a good enough job to optimize for search engines and things like that. But what I really think about is what problems is that article is supposed to solve. So right now, as editor-in-chief, I have to be very, very careful about picking the right topics and kind of publishing the topics that I know will be interesting to the audience. And so I really think about problem first approach, basically. So if an article covers some sort of an issue which is often misunderstood, or maybe which often creates isn't really clear from the very start, where you might want to explore many different options, but then exploring these options takes time. So maybe it would be a good idea to actually have a case study, and we'll look very deep into one specific topic and try to make it a reference article. And of course, there are plenty of sites out there wonderfully doing this job, where you find a lot of blogs which just really take this notion to extreme, take a very practical problem that many people have, right? Things that people search in, not Yahoo, I guess, anymore, in Google, right? Is Yahoo still a thing? I don't know. We'll have to talk about it later, maybe. But so they take this problem and then they really break it down into kind of show some solutions to that issue, how to make it better. One thing that I think we don't spend a lot of time talking about is how do we delete things? So very often we talk about how to publish, and we are really good at publishing. I mean, at this point, when you look around, again, tons of really incredible articles really published everywhere about how to do anything, right? Sometimes it's a little bit too much advertising going on. Sometimes it's a little bit too noisy. Sometimes it's just not written well enough, right? But there is a lot of good content out there. At the same time, there's a lot of outdated content out there. So many projects I'm working on, not necessarily European Parliament, just in general, you can see this notion of, the site has been existing now for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. And so there are different departments who care about different sections of the site, and nothing ever gets deleted. And as a result, you end up with issues in search. You end up with issues with traffic because it's all over the place. There is no central place that kind of communicates a particular topic to a particular audience. It's kind of all fragmented and scattered all over the place. And this creates some issues down the line of people kind of finding very different points of view about the particular topic and not knowing what to trust. They will then look maybe at the date or things like that. But this is actually quite important. And in general, optimizing for scanning, that's something that we've been doing very early on, where you need to be able to go from the article, from the top to the bottom, and really by bolding some of the important takeaways, right? Make sure that people understand what's going on. Maybe just one quick point on that.
Yeah.
I think we often, and this has kind of been a thing that I've had as my personal mistake in the past as well, we'll be often looking into things like bounce rates and how long do people stay on a particular page. And I learned very quickly that this is not necessarily the best metric to keep in mind. Because if somebody is staying for 4 minutes on a particular page or for 2 minutes, it doesn't really represent a good or a bad experience. They might be staying on a page for a long time because they don't understand what the page is about.
Yeah.
They might be spending only 30 seconds on a page because they perfectly understand what it is about, what options they have, and all of that. So time on a page, for example, is not very relevant, right? Obviously, if you have a very high bounce rate, that's probably a bad idea. People come and people leave very quickly, right? And so presenting a solution to the problem quickly is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like you have to drag people through, I don't know, long read. But sometimes you want people to experience content, kind of dive into that case study, or dive into that story and really explore all of it from all the different perspectives, from the design perspective, from the content strategy perspective, from the development perspective. And this is where really nice lengthy articles with a lot of examples, which could be used as reference material, could be very, very helpful. That's pretty much the main focus of what we are publishing now. Every article that gets published, more or less, is not necessarily a big guide, but it will contain some part of that story, right? So case studies, or maybe taking something like a very simple design pattern like a carousel and just really going all in. I mean, research on those carousel article that I've written, I think 2 months ago, that took, I don't know, maybe 60 hours, gathering all the examples and all of that. That was really exciting for me, but I don't want to see any carousels anymore. But I don't have to. And hopefully people who are going to watch it now or maybe read that article later will know what to do with the carousel.
So you've gone through a lot of different topics, and that's pretty rich. But I wanted to stop on a few things. First, you talked about is it what you're saying that we should bounce rate is not always the right metric, and we need to find other metrics, or is it like it depends? It depends what you're trying to achieve, and then you have to find the right metric.
I think, Florian, this is a very interesting question, because one thing that we learned when working with the European Parliament, there are literally like tens of thousands and thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of pages. Those metrics like bounce rates or how much time people actually spend on a page, they don't really matter that much. So we looked at it from a very different perspective, from the perspective of design KPIs. We started looking into what do people try to achieve on the site in the first place, right? Well, we want to convey some information, right? Or we want to engage them, right? We want to subscribe to some campaigns, to be informed about the next election, things like that. So we actually want to communicate information faster. That means ideally that we could follow the GovUK pattern. I mean, obviously not every publisher is going to do the same, but in our case, we want to reduce traffic coming our way. We want people to be able to find answers to the questions, for example, like when is the next election happening, or how can I vote for the next election, just by typing, how do I vote, EU elections, and then finding the results immediately in short snippets that are going to appear in Google search results. Okay. We don't necessarily want more traffic. We want maybe even less traffic, as long as we communicate clearly what people need, right? Okay. So that's one side of it. And maybe
but it's unmeasurable, the other, is it? How can you measure that? Well, does Google give you anything about
that? Is right. That is right. But then what we do is this. So we say, okay, we have a particular set of tasks that are important on a given site. I mean, again, European Parliament, a big website, right? But you might have a plenty of different tasks that different audiences might want to accomplish. Maybe look up some things about the law, or look up some things about delegations or committees or things that are being discussed at this point. These are the kind of concrete tasks that they want to solve on that site, right? This is why they come to the site. My job as a designer now is to organize things in a way that they can get there quickly. This is the goal, not the bounce rates, not the click-through rates, right? And not the number of published websites. My job is to to reduce the time to answer, basically. In the same way, like reduce the time to good search results, things like that. And so what we do is this. We identify this important task that people tend to do, right? For each of them, we kind of come up with some sort of a so-called task construction. This is, I'm working closely with Jerry McGovern. He's very well known for top task methodology. So the idea is, once we know what people do on the site, for each of the tasks that people do, and we might have 50 or 60 of them, we create this task construction saying, okay, people interested in law, right? Okay, let's give a person who is going to join the usability test, let's give them a task, namely, find the latest revision of the Lisbon Treaty. Okay. Right? This is maybe one of the typical tasks that people will be doing on the site. And we measure the time that they need. They can start with them when they want. They can start from Google. They can start from European Parliament site. But my goal is to minimize the time to relevance, right? Or give them these answers without them having to spend too much time going through a lot of search results and all of that, right? And so we have maybe 60, maybe 70 tasks like that. And we bring people in and they will have maybe 1 hour, do this and try to find this and complete this and submit a petition here and find a way to do this, right? And we measure the success rate and we measure the success time. So do they actually succeed in completing this task at all, right? That would be one important thing. And if they do, how much time do they need to succeed, right? Is it that they're going from one page to the next and then to the third, and then they go to search result, and then they go back to Google, and then they go maybe again to the site? So maybe taking like 5 or 6 minutes, that's too long. Can we reduce it to, I don't know, a minute, right? This then requires a lot of architecture. So that means, for example, reorganizing navigation, focused around top tasks. Maybe the most important sections with the most important tasks that people do need to be more prominent and visible. Maybe we should not be hiding these things on mobile either. I think very often we just get into this notion of, what everybody is doing, menu button on mobile, and everybody is doing the hamburger icon on mobile. So let's do that. That's usually a bad default. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you don't need the hamburger icon at all. Or maybe you don't need a menu button. Maybe there is a way to display things immediately, right? And actually allow people to drive and drill down into some sections faster. So the time is very important. The success rate is very important. I would argue that this is probably the most important metric you might have.
Okay.
This is, again, there are a lot of things, and do you mind that I ask more questions?
I know you have a program, but you can go ahead first, and then I can ask.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So, so you told me before we started this conversation, when we were like off, before we go live, that I can ask you any question. You're flexible.
Anything.
You're ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Florian, bring it on.
Okay. So you talked about these tasks and what people are going to achieve, and then you study that, and from that perspective you try to answer. I love the idea, and this is we're trying hard to install this at every single question that we're asking about marketing or anything that we're doing at Prismic.
It's a common pattern, I guess, in product. I don't do product, but I guess in product it's the same.
In product, but also in the different the publications that we're doing in DevX, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to say how are we basically bringing value, and what are they trying to achieve, the people. But here's the thing, ads. Okay, when you're doing advertisement, are you trying to solve something that people are looking for? Are you trying to deliver value? So that's part of the question. The other part, which I think is related, so there is the ad part, and how do you envision
ads inside of articles, or ads to get traffic
the whole
to the website?
The whole ad, in general, for bringing traffic, for acquisition. What kind of tasks in your understanding you're trying to solve here, and how will you get about understanding ads and delivering to them, or should we at all do ads in that question? And then the other part of it, which I think you had to deal with at some point, is what about catchy titles and articles that are trying to kind of grab attention? And you probably talked about like the 10 most important things that you have to do today, or these kind of catchy articles that try to bring traffic. So how do you reason about ads and these catchy articles that we see on the web? Because I like your approach, and I would like to see your reasoning about it.
That's a very good question. I think that one doesn't contradict the other, to be honest. So it's perfectly fine if the title is catchy, as long as it's written or produced in a way that actually helps solve a particular task, right? So I don't mind going to a blog or a magazine or anything that has maybe a slightly more, catchy title, right? It doesn't have to be boring. That's kind of not necessarily the point. It's not like you have to, I'm just going to call it privacy, and then it's going to be an article about privacy patterns, right? Obviously, you need to be optimizing for that, so people who you want to be able to find the information can find that information, right? So it's just probably over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I wasn't really paying enough attention to that, but now we do, right? So that's going to be quite important. But the other side of it, when you think about metrics and advertising, we kind of try to approach it in a very similar way. Meaning, when we talk to our advertisers, it's often, all right, so what is it that you want to achieve as an advertiser? Well, do you want leads? Do you want to get, probably yes. Do you want to get more visibility? Probably yes. Do you want to have a good reputation? by the end of it, because of course you could just have all kind of screaming ads and all kind of screaming content, right? But then it's not going to go well with our audience, because our audience is very savvy. These are people who know what the web is. They're creating the web, they're designing the web, they're building the web. So we need to produce content that very much matches the expectations and not requirements, but the demand, I would say, that this really heavy kind of techie audience has. So we need to produce content that will be relevant to them, and that will be putting you as a brand or as a company in good light. There are many ways of doing that. You could be supporting a series of articles about a particular topic. For example, if somebody wants to be connected with performance, web performance, right, it might be just a good idea to be sponsoring a series of articles around performance. One of those articles could be very much about measuring performance in the tool that they are providing, right? That could be framed nicely. It's not like a screaming ad somewhere, right? And we can then measure based on that, okay, how popular is that series, right? And also, well, how interesting is that? How often is it being shared, and so on and so forth, right? And I guess the most important part would be for the advertiser, just how many click outs do we get, or sign-ups or leads, right? And another thing would be, if somebody comes and say, well, we want a product review, that's probably not going to work for us, because if it's a sponsored article, there is always a bit of bias involved, right? It's probably not going to be okay to write that, oh, we didn't like that feature at all, or this doesn't really work at all. We can't do that. So it creates a sense of bias, which we want to avoid. So instead we say, okay, well, maybe we can really say and unpack, how does your tool solve a particular problem, right? So what problems do you solve? Well, mostly advertisers know what problems a tool solves, right? That's usually a good idea. And then we'll wrap a story around it. It might not necessarily be a product review, because usually they don't perform very well. But it could be a case study from a big customer who just switched to your tool, or who just switched to your service, right? Or it could be something like, oh, this is how we optimize performance. Oh, here's how we optimized SEO, right? Oh, here's how we kind of tweaked our marketing strategy to make it work better.
So you're trying, again, to think about not your the customer that wants to do the advertisement, but actually the actual users. How are they going to extract value out of this?
That, but also more importantly, we need to think about, for that promotion to be working, right? For that content to be succeeding, you need to deliver some value for people to keep reading. If it's just blatant advertising, that's not going to work. So if it provides some value, then people might be gaining some trust for that brand. And maybe not necessarily in the first article, but maybe in the second or the third, they will continue reading, and they will be clicking on those leads that will be kind of nicely fitting within that story that we're creating for them.
I see.
Cool.
Right. So this is kind of the journey that we usually take there.
Let's try to make it a short question, because I know we're already over time with the time we booked with you, but let's ask my question quickly. So you mentioned that for visitors, sometimes they want to scan quickly the article, understand what's there. And so I wonder, with all your experience in these kinds of long publications, do you have some learnings on how people actually read content? Like, what's the behavior when they go to a long form article that maybe they're interesting to know when we're designing one, that we can take into consideration? I see, for instance, that on a Smashing magazine, there's a lot of illustrations and things that make the reading experience rich, or at least not boring. You feel like there's something happening at every scroll. So I wonder if that is intentional and comes from some study or some discovery on how people read.
Yeah, so there is a lot of studies, and Norman Nielsen Group did a lot of research on that as well, because very famously there is this F pattern where people actually start looking at the full lines at the very top of the article, and then as they start scrolling down, they kind of more into the scanning mode, right, where they just look at headings and a bit of text here and there. So it's very long, a lot of reading on the very top of the article, and then as you go down, kind of read a little bit less. That's not necessarily always the case. And actually, if you type in Norman Nielsen Group and you look into F shape or F pattern, you will find an article about that, which also includes or covers a lot of other patterns as well, right? So there are plenty of other different patterns also on mobile and so on. But what is important in this scanning process, which eventually will be happening in one way or the other, is that we give people anchors, right? That means when you scroll down, there are images or videos, but there are also some important keywords which are bold. So one kind of test that we did a while back, but we frankly don't do it anymore. Maybe we should. Good that you bring this up. The test was, well, can somebody who is reading this article, which maybe, I don't know, has 3,000 words, or maybe 2,000 words, or maybe 4,000 words. Can they just by scanning it, I don't know, maybe 1 minute long, 60 seconds long or so, can they then tell us what the article is about and all the key points that it has?
Interesting.
And the way we designed it is literally, in a way, we have all the important key points as headings, and then we have all the important keywords kind of bolded, right? So basically, if you do just the scanning, you, of course, will miss some important bits, but you will also get some important considerations and kind of key points or key takeaways, hopefully, right? Obviously, if you have a very long article, this is going to be quite a journey, right? But usually that works. Now, if you do have a long form article, which is fine, again, if it's a big case study or if it's a story that you want to tell, it is usually a good idea to mix things up. So you would have some animation going on maybe, and you will have some images going on, kind of showing the story. Kind of breaking things is literally a good idea, because there is a common pattern that you can find on landing pages where you have an image on the left, text on the right. And then as you scroll down, you have text on the left, image on the right. You're kind of always crossing, right? So this always brings attention to something, right? So the person who is reading an article is always engaged. On the other hand, if you have text on the left, image on the right, text on the left, image on the right, text on the right, left, image on the right, you kind of end up with a situation where, like we do here on Smashing, actually, text on the left, image on the right, apparently. But we do have a lot of images, I promise. So you actually end up with slightly more static experience. And so people tend to ignore one or the other a lot. So if it's interesting images, people look at images. If it's interesting text, people just read the text. So if you kind of cross it, then you actually end up with a better position. You know, something that we've learned a long time ago when we were designing landing pages, of course, too.
Cool.
Awesome. I have a question from the chat.
With that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I like questions from the chat.
Yeah, I have a question from Danielle, who's saying, is adding a table of content to an article a good idea?
Yes, if it's a long article, for sure. We don't have it just for technical reasons. I wanted to do it for a long time now. In general, it does help. So when I was conducting usability tests, what I noticed is that people really pay attention to it. They really do. So because usually they want to jump, but you don't want to jump randomly. You want to jump predictably. And very often what happens is people just jump between the different sections in table of contents. If it's a sticky, let's say in the sidebar on the left or on the right, to get to whatever it is that they want to learn, right? So that's really helpful to speed them up to get to the point. However, of course, if you have an advertising somewhere in the middle, it might be, you might have a page impression, but it might be skipped. So you have to be careful about that thing and kind of keep that in mind as well.
Okay, super cool, super interesting. Well, thanks a lot. Well, people can keep asking questions in the chat, and maybe if you stay there, you can answer them there. But thanks a lot for your time. We're already over time. Something that I wanted to mention.
How is it? Let's end it.
I guess
we still have hundreds of questions.
I mean, I could go for another 10-15 minutes. It's not like I have to run somewhere.
I want to respect the program with
Go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask one last
Sorry,
question.
no, I didn't mean to hijack the session.
No worries. It's for you. Go ahead.
No, so let me try to choose from the other questions. So, okay, so you talked here about the fact that you didn't choose to go for the table of content, right, with Smashing Magazine.
For technical reasons, because we have advertising on the right. So we actually still try to figure out a way to do it. I think it's in general it's a very good idea to do so.
Right, and then the other thing that you said when you're optimizing mobile is that you would re-question the burger menu, and you might.
I question everything in life, Florian. I mean, at this point, I mean, after COVID, I questioned literally absolutely everything. Or during COVID, I don't know where we are at this point. But I would highly suggest to everyone to really question decisions that are taken by default. For example, it is very common for people to see, for websites to just have a search icon in mobile. And I would argue why? Why do we do that actually specifically? Because if you look at studies, right, there are a couple of studies. And one of them is showing very clearly that if you actually want people to search more on mobile, right, you never hide a search box. Just show a search box. If you do want people to search on mobile, hopefully your search is actually also good enough to be used in the first place, right? If you want people to use search on mobile,
right? which is hard to get right.
Yes, it is. It is. You display that search box. If you want people to use and navigation and navigate between different sections more, do not expect this to happen if you just put everything behind the menu button.
Okay, so
Maybe
then
just
then
show navigation.
the question is search versus navigation. How do you choose?
That depends on what is more important to you. It's not necessarily that a lot of searches leads to better conversion. You might be, if you have a really poor search engine, then it's maybe even a good idea to hide search, if I'm being honest. If it's really complicated, has a lot of filters that need to be applied at first. If you have 20,000 or I don't know, 50,000 articles that are not structured well because of improper metadata in those articles, then it's probably not a good idea to drive people to search. Then maybe you want to reorganize your navigation first. And of course, many projects will be in the state of in between, where you may be improving some of the top performing pages at first, right? And then you perform everything else. So maybe you want to show in the navigation these top performing sections or pages at first, right? And kind of focus on them. It's all about what your intention is.
Yes, yes.
So if your intent is, I want people to go to these pages, or I want people to do that, right? Then maybe we should just, show those things immediately, rather than hoping that people will discover them in a navigation bar, or in a hamburger icon navigation.
Yeah. You want to continue?
I'm good. I can continue forever, but I want to be respectful.
Cool. But thanks a lot for sharing so much. I want to mention that I've started. I don't know, it's a course, so I didn't do the workshops, but I started the course from you on design patterns, which for me, who's not a designer, is still super interesting, and I'm learning a lot. So I'm putting the link to it on the chat for anyone interested. You talked to me about the fact that also there are workshops there where you actually train on these kinds of thinking process to understand what do you want the person to do and what do they want to achieve when they arrive on a site. So super interesting. There's a question from Henri.
Go, we can answer that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but go to that site. It's great, and these videos, I guess, are very helpful for anyone.
So you're becoming a designer.
Yeah, I've always been interested in this, but I've never haven't been a designer, so I'm trying to learn.
Right. So maybe I can explain just briefly here. So essentially, like all the things, because I've been doing this thing for a long time, I thought it might be a good idea to record it for my own, so I can use it in my project when I started doing consultancy work. Then I thought, would it be a good idea to maybe just share it with everyone? And so out of that came kind of this video course, which is ever growing. It's not just a video course that's set and down. Like I'm recording like 5 new lessons. Yeah, 5 new lessons or chapters, each like half an hour long every year. And it's growing over time. And this is incredible because I never have to memorize anything. I just have it all in front of me, recorded with all the examples and all of that. So I know it sounds a little bit weird, and I don't like watching myself on video. I promise to everyone. But all these examples, I really find it very neat to be able to see it, have those little packages in front of me. So that's really, really cool. And then on top of that, because there was a question that came up, somebody asked, well, can we make it like a live course or live thing? And so we actually have this live training, which is challenging. So if you feel bored as a designer, or if you have people in your team who are designers and they're just bored and want to be challenged, if you want to redesign European Parliament, work on a real-time betting website, rebuild the financial equity screener interface, you'll have a lot of fun in September. You'll find all of this in the link. I didn't mean to do anything marketing here or promo, but this is so much fun. It's awesome. I'm super excited about it already.
Cool.
Yes, there was a question.
It's a question from Harry, who says, should top-notch publication have or create things like workshops or conferences? I guess besides all the contents, the written one.
I think yes, because it's in the end, when you think about publication, it cannot exist on its own. It has readership, and that readership is its community in some way or the other. It might be a passive community, it might be an active community. To kind of awake that community, to bring people together, to establish these connections, for people to feel connected not only to the brand, but also in between themselves, and because this is what ultimately lasts longer, right? Yeah. You kind of need to create some sort of an environment, be it virtual or in person, where people can connect, right? And so I think in many ways, when we think about websites, it often feels like this virtual thing over there. but there are always people behind those virtual things, right? And so I think there's a lot of value that people can see when they connect to a brand personally. And this is why, for example, one thing has become very clear to me over the last few years. As a brand, whenever something in the world happens, you cannot be silent. It just doesn't work anymore, because people tend to associate certain things with or certain values, let's say, with not necessarily the brand on its own, but with people working for that brand or people who are creating that brand. That's very important. So you cannot just be silent and say, okay, I'm out of politics, or I'm out of, I don't know, whatever else is happening in the world. You need to have a position. And that position, if it's aligned with some of your customers, or hopefully with many of your customers, you will never lose them.
Yeah. It's what they connect with you with. That's really cool. Yeah, that's true.
Yes. And just one thing that I want to mention here as well, that I think is actually quite important. We often try to compete with other brands in terms of features, in terms of speed to the publication, to the company. If we just invest in sharing or aligning the values that we have publicly with the values that our readers have, you will have to lose some people, right? But you will kind of gain such a strong user base of people who really love you and will follow you for years. I know some companies, sorry, I can talk forever, but I know a lot of people who pay for a service which they never use, just because they feel like this is good people working in a good company, creating a good product. I just want to support them. Yeah. So sometimes we spend too much time thinking about crafting these perfect pricing plans, right? Just features here and there, and they're important. I'm not saying that they're not important, but it's maybe not always necessary. If you can align people and kind of having conferences, having wonderful events like this, where I'm really, really happy to be invited to, is a great opportunity to do just that. Cool. This is what is really missing very often.
Nice. That's so cool. And it's at the same time a very good transition to what I'm going to say next, because the goal for me for organizing these events is also to show everyone who are the people behind Prismic, and we're gonna have a product manager for one of our top products, and I would like for people to see who's the person who's making that product. We're gonna also have someone from our open source team, so that's also for that's the role of this meetup for us too. So it's cool, as you're saying.
That's fantastic. That's great to see.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot for your openness and for sharing so much. I personally learned a lot. So yeah, thanks a lot for being here.
I'm very happy to do that. And if I can help in any way to you or to our readers or anything, I'm always here. I'm always here to help. I even have a printer, which means that I'm not portable anymore. So once you have a printer, that's it. You kind of stay in
the same place. Now you have to stay in
Berlin. Yes, well, actually, ironically, we are moving. We're switching to a different apartment, but the printer is coming. So this is the only portable part of that journey. Yes, this is the anchor. So once you get a printer, you're never going anywhere.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much as well, and bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Cool. That was nice.
That was very nice.
Should we welcome Com? Who's the new person you'll meet from Prismic? Hello, Com.
Hello.
Hello, Com. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool.
Well, everyone, meet Com. Com is a product manager at Prismic. He manages a product that maybe some of you know. It's called Slice Machine. And well, he's an awesome person that I'm very happy to work with. Sadek is very good at making intros.
You did the intro already.
No, you have so many nice things to say about Com. You said very nice things about Com on Monday, so I guess you have more to share.
Yeah, I like working with Com. When back in the time when we were interviewing Com, I was like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? And then I understood that you go fishing, right?
Exactly.
Com, yeah. And that is a lot of patience, a lot of observation. And you explained to me, remember? You explained to me how you need to kind of observe for a long time, understand what's going on, and then this is the moment where you choose a point, right? This is what you talked about.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember. See, I remember. And
it requires a lot of passion indeed.
And this is what I see through that. It's the same Com, it's like patience and observation and that's cool. I like a lot of things about Common. I enjoy working with him. So these 2 weeks, Renaud was away. Renaud is our head of
The
product,
product.
and he's away because he's in holidays. And I enjoyed these times working directly with Com. So that was nice.
Cool. And Com is here to talk to us about something they released in Science Machine. So I don't know, Com, do you want to introduce and say why you worked on this?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a release that's been out for a few days already. It's called Starters. So maybe to introduce a little bit the topic. So to put it very simple, like a starter is just a new option to start a new repository on Prismic. So now you can choose between blank, like from scratch, or a starter. And I'm going to explain a bit more in detail what is it. So just a little bit of why in this release. So today we are really focusing on onboarding users and making sure that our concepts at Prismic are like crystal clear. And so we thought about that. We thought what could be like a good onboarding for users and what could be a good way to explain
the
concepts.
Yeah.
And we thought that in the end, a nice and good example is always a very nice way to explain sometimes a complex problem, or in this case, our concepts. And this is exactly what are starters. So starters, they are website examples that are already made with Prismic and Slice Machine that you can just download, and you can like create your repository on top of them. And this way, it's like you don't start from scratch. Like you already have a Prismic website that's running, and that contains models, documents, etc. And like in 2 minutes, you could have like a blog, for example, and just like that understand what is Prismic and how it works. So yeah, so it's live since beginning of July, like the 5th of July. Maybe I can show you quickly how it looks.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen with us?
I think so.
Apparently you're not, so can you try to push again on the link I sent you?
Okay.
But so to recap, my understanding is that starters, we made them because, well, there's a lot of concepts to get as a developer when you arrive on Prismic. So the idea is that when you arrive, you're not like on a blank place. You can start with a website and try to play around and get your own understanding on how things work.
I love that exercise. Like there are times where you want to kind of have a look at what, like sometimes you want to go through a tutorial, you feel motivated, you want to get things done. Sometimes you want like just to take a step back and look at something that's working and kind of poke around and, change this, see what breaks, change something, see what changes, and that will give you a good understanding of how the project is structured and whether this is relevant to you or not. And I like this. And actually, the idea of starters, correct me, Com, if I'm wrong, but it came from a research that we did about, what people prefer when they do learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we discovered that a lot of users were, so we did like prototypes and we tested different ideas, and we discovered that actually a lot of users, they don't really tell that they would like to use something that was pre-made by someone else, etc. They like to code their own websites, etc. But in the end, when we showed them some prototypes with that options to start with a starter, they were really interested in like testing these solutions just to get a quick understanding. And as you said, like play around with the things, break stuff, and just that way just onboard quickly on Prismic. And it worked really well. So we saw in that a good opportunity to just improve our onboarding and make much more people use Prismic and build website with Prismic. So
cool.
Yeah, that's cool that you remind that, because like we did actually a lot of different interviews, testing prototypes to come up with that idea. And
so I would like to take the opportunity to tell everyone, like, thank you for interacting with us on the user research and all the things that we do, because it matters, and then it brings results that are good for you by the end of the day, and it's what we're all about, right?
Yeah. So come, we have your screen now. If you can go and you want to show us.
Okay, cool. I will show you like just the beginning of the experience, so that then I encourage you guys to just test it and send us feedback, and I'm sure you will have a lot. And it's like a first release, so we have a lot of ideas around starters, and I'm sure we are going to improve that a lot. So basically, I guess you know that screen. Like we are on the Prismic dashboard, so I can start with the framework that I use. So I will choose Next, for example. And now you get this new screen that was not there before, where I can choose if I want to start from scratch, like from blank. And I can see like 3 pre-made starters. So one is a blog, another one is a like multi-language website starter, and the other one like a bit more complex starter, like website with like navigation and a few pages. And it's quite simple. Like you can, so it's a website. You can preview it if you want. So this one, for example, is just a simple blog. But it's also some code that's hosted on GitHub on our side. And the idea about starter, when you select it, it will create a repository based on that starter. And later on, you will be able to just download the code and start your repository straight away with that starter. So yeah, so that's basically the idea. I don't think I will not go into like too much detail in installing the starter here, but I'm sure you will test it and send us feedback about that.
Cool. Yeah, so you have the website with the code, already some documents, and you can discover by yourself, like as a new Prismic user, Prismic developer here, specifically for developers, how building a website works. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Like you will download the code, and then on your repository, it will not be empty. Like when you start from scratch, your repository is empty at the beginning. So you will at the same time download the code and already get some custom types and documents pre-made for that website, so that you already also have content and not only like static content for your website. Okay. It's a website that already linked with
connected to your project. Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, thanks a lot, Com, for coming and like first introducing yourself and presenting us this new release.
And there are many things that we're working on, and at some point, Com maybe we'll be back together with Ono to kind of present the new stuff. Nice. But for now, we're not talking about this.
Yeah, they're still secrets. But I know you're working on really cool things, so that's nice. That's super cool. And I guess I'm super happy that other people and people from the community get to like put a face behind that product. And yeah, I'm happy that you're here.
Sure. Thanks a lot. And hopefully, a lot of people will use starters and will get feedback. So again, like invited you like to just test that feature and send us as much feedback as you can.
Yeah, you told me I think that you already have like over 500 starters used this month.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign that people enjoy learning by like looking at an inspiration. That's great.
Yeah, that's a really good sign. A lot of people download starters, and we have idea for the next steps. Like we have idea like I don't know, like make your own starters. For example, you're a company or an agency at some point. What if you could make your own starters and like start like that in your repository?
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of ideas. I'm sure the next steps will going to be pretty exciting.
That's true. That's true. And we're gonna, let's not go into like a rabbit hole there. I was going to go into starters for agencies, but let's not go there. Thank you for being here, Com. It was great to have you.
Thanks a lot.
Cool. Our last session will be with Angelo, who actually lives in Hawaii. So he's not here, but he recorded a video where he gives open source updates about what the open source team released. So we'll play that session. It's like a short, like 5 minutes video. So yeah, we'll review with Angelo, and then we'll be back for Q&A.
Hey everyone, I'm Angelo, a Senior Developer Experience Engineer at Prismic. I'm here to give you an update on our open source tools and integrations that developers use when building with Prismic. First, I'll give you a recap of our latest releases in case you missed their announcements. Next, I'll share some details on significant upgrades to our Gatsby integration. And lastly, I'll be introducing a new program we're starting just for you, developers that use Prismic. Okay, let's jump into it. We released a bunch of new features last month in our first release week that make developing with Prismic an even more pleasant experience. First, we released Prismic Snippets, an extension you can install to your code editor that lets you quickly scaffold Prismic projects. With just a few keystrokes, you can bootstrap Prismic text components, link resolvers, and more. Today, we support VS Code, Vim, Sublime, and IntelliJ. You can learn how to install the extension and make use of it on GitHub. Next, we released Prismic Next Image, a new React component for Next.js apps that lets you render optimized images effortlessly. It's a light layer above Next.js's Next Image component with native support for Prismic image fields. It makes use of Prismic's ImageX integration, which all Prismic images are served through, giving you the flexibility to edit and optimize your images. You can think of it like a mini Photoshop powered through URL parameters. Just a few parameters can transform your images. You can learn how to install and use it in your projects in the Prismic Next documentation. Lastly, we released Prismic TS Code Gen, a game-changing tool for all Prismic developers. It's a command line tool that automatically generates TypeScript types for all of your project's custom types and slices. You'll know immediately in your code editor if you type the wrong field name or use the wrong component. You'll also have quick access to developer documentation right from your code editor. After running Prismic TS Code Gen, the Prismic JavaScript client automatically picks up the types, even in projects that don't use TypeScript. Deciding whether or not to use this in your projects should be a no-brainer. The answer is yes, you should. You can learn how to install and run Prismic TS Code Gen in the Prismic docs. So that's a quick recap on everything we released during our past release week. Prismic snippets, Prismic Next Image, and Prismic TS Code Gen. We think you're really going to love these updates. Next, let's talk about Gatsby. Today, we offer a pair of plugins that make integrating Prismic into Gatsby apps simple. Gatsby Source Prismic pulls content from Prismic into your app, and Gatsby plugin Prismic Previews adds live preview support without the need for Gatsby Cloud. Both have been generally stable since their last major release, version 5, in October of last year. As we look toward the future, however, there is still much to improve within our plugins. In the next major release of Prismic's Gatsby integration, we plan to focus on two primary areas. One is performance. We want to make Prismic within Gatsby as quick and efficient as possible. Dev server startup should be quick, previews should be quick, and builds should also be quick. We have a lot of opportunities here, especially in the preview plugin with large repositories. Our next focus is simplifying the code base. The current code base is relatively difficult to understand. It makes heavy use of complex programming patterns, which makes it difficult to identify and fix bugs. We want to simplify the code to make it easier for us and others in the community, maybe you, to fix and extend Prismic's Gatsby plugins. Work on refreshing our Gatsby plugins has already begun, but it's not too late if you want to provide feedback or suggestions to make it even better. You can see the full RFC, or request for comments, and detailed plans on GitHub. Feel free to provide feedback directly in that thread. Talking about a new Gatsby plugin refresh leads us right into the next announcement. Today, we're introducing the Prismic Early Access program. We want to give you and everyone who uses Prismic the opportunity to get early access to new features and developer tooling. Through this program, we hope to gather input on our newest projects and features before they're released. Our first cohort will be focused on the Gatsby plugins refresh I just introduced earlier, with the goal of giving you and all other Gatsby and Prismic developers the best possible experience. This cohort will be led by me, Angelo, as I'm the maintainer of the Prismic Gatsby integration. You'll get first access to the new plugins and get a chance to provide feedback and input on the future roadmap. We plan to have bi-weekly workshops with myself and other Gatsby devs where we'll explore the refreshed plugins and share best practices around using Gatsby and Prismic. We plan to start this cohort within the next month. If this sounds interesting to you and you want to secure your spot in the cohort, sign up at prismic.club/early access. All right, that's it for the open source update. To recap, we have a handful of new developer features you can try out today, including Prismic snippets, Prismic Next Image, and Prismic TS Code Gen. We're also working on a major refresh of our Gatsby integration with a focus on performance and simplifying the code base. And lastly, we're kicking off the Prismic Early Access program, with which you have the opportunity to try out Prismic's newest features and provide your valuable feedback. Our first cohort will be designed around the Gatsby plugins refresh, which you can sign up for today. You can go to prismic.club/early access to learn more about the Early Access program and sign up. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Cool. Thanks, Angelo, for the updates. So the main big part that I want to feature from Angelo's presentation is the early access. Did they call it program? Early access program, I think. So I'm putting the link in the chat. It's something we want to try and start thinking with developers in the community on designing together some new updates to the kits or some new features or new integrations. So don't hesitate to sign up there, and it will be workshops with Angelo and Eric from the team. So Angelo that you know, and Eric from the community team. So yeah, that would be great to see some of you in a different format and actually get to interact more with some of you. So yeah, that's the link there. It explains what it is, and we're already taking a few people there. So go there. Cool. So we're done with today's meetup. I hope it was good and that you liked the content.
I really enjoyed the discussion.
Nice.
It was cool, and thank you for organizing all of that, Nuha, and bring these people in.
And I'm sorry for Alex. He was super excited about being the host for this one.
Yeah.
But actually, he lost internet 20 minutes before the start of the meetup. So sorry for you, Alex. But next time you'll be the host, and I'll find a very good guest for you next time again.
Wow, this is a big.
He's a big fan of Vitaly, and he wanted to be the guest for this one, and then it didn't happen. I'm so sorry for you,
some
Alex.
people talked about re-inviting Vitaly.
Re-inviting Vitaly? We can do that.
Cool.
So Reese is asking if there's a method to migrate an older project over to the new SM system, or just
nuke the old.
What does it mean, nuke? I'm not good in English.
Destroy.
Remove it?
Yeah, destroy.
I think that if I would love Com to answer this question so that people get introduced to Com. And Com, I don't know if he's in the chat. You removed your question, Reese? Sorry. Well, hopefully Com can answer that. I think go ahead.
Well, I will not have a super answer there, but I think the best way is to ask the question on the QA or to the support team.
In the community forum, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas, but I don't want to kind of guide in the wrong direction, so I prefer that. Yeah, but we'll ask the question on the community team.
I know it's something that the team of Com is looking into and trying to make that easier to bring old projects to Slice Machine, make that process easier. He will be able to tell more about when and how, and if it's
so
specific.
If it's about slices that already exist, but the old slices, and you want to make them shared slices, I think the thing is you need to kind of there are changes that need to happen to the code, right? So you need to adapt the code. I would say probably you have to open the project in Slice Machine, connect it to the repository, and slowly one slice after the other, recreate them actually, and then push them back or something. But I'd rather have Com and the team answering
and I know
to that
have
more concretely.
Conversations on how to make that easier. So probably he'll be a great person to answer that. Could he explain how to make a custom slice template for Slice Machine?
Well, there are videos out there to say how can you make your own slices. I suppose this is the thing. No?
Oh yeah, okay. So making your own slices, yeah. Making your own slice template. So whenever you start, it doesn't start from we give a boilerplate slice, I guess, and making.
Is it about the starter?
Boilerplate slice.
Is it about the starter or is it about the boilerplate slice?
We can ask. It's hard. Budius. I'm gonna go with the last name.
With the last name.
Okay, yeah, code template for the new slice. I think there's an article in the docs about that. Let me try to find it for you on how to customize it.
So what's your understanding of this?
Of the question itself?
Yes.
It's, whenever you create a new slice, we create a boilerplate slice for you, like a new slice template. And can you customize that
to have your
initial
own
state of a slice? Yeah, to have your own.
And can we?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
And what do you add it for? To Slice Machine?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that this exists.
I need to find that article. Custom component template. I found it. It's here. Let me. I'm sending you the link for Next.js, but I hope if you don't use Next.js, there's a similar article in Next.
Wow, this is awesome. So basically, you just answered the question. I'm very, this is cool.
That we have documentation of that. Yeah,
no, that the marketing person is answering a very technical question about the product.
Yeah,
how good is that? I like it.
Yes.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing that.
Cool. Okay. Well, I guess we're already like 13 minutes late for our schedule, but thanks everyone for sticking with us till the end. It was great to have you.
It's really the answer. It's really the answer.
Wow. I'm serious, yeah.
I'm impressed. Anyway, I would like to thank
Florian, Pierre-Yves.
Florian and Pierre-Yves behind for also being around and helping with the whole setup and the camera.
And for our guests.
Vitaly, to you as well.
And Angelo. And thank you.
And Angelo. I love Angelo.
Cool. And we're going to have a next meetup next month. So always the last Wednesday of the month is going to be August 31st. You'll receive an email with the topic and everything. But yeah, looking forward to see you there. And have a good summer. Have good holidays if you're taking holidays.
Thank you.
Bye.